All right, we'll go ahead and call to order the January 11, 2017 meeting of the Ascension Parish Zoning Commission. All members, all commissioners are present, and we will move on to item 3 on the agenda, which is the election of the 2017 Zoning Commission Chairman. Do I have a motion regarding that?
I would move that to nominate Commissioner Pryor to remain as a chairman, Commissioner Christie to be our vice chair.
All right, we have a motion to nominate myself and Mr. Christie as chairman and vice chairman respectively. Do I have a second by Mr. Chasson? All in favor?
Aye.
Any in opposition? Hearing none, the motion passes and the offices are instated. Item number 4 is the approval or denial of the minutes and written decisions of the December 14th, 2016 zoning meeting. Do I have a motion regarding that?
So moved.
So moved by Mr. Dudley, second by Mr. Christie. All in favor?
Aye.
Any in opposition? Hearing none, motion passes. Item number 5 is the chairman's comment. Chair has no comments regarding zoning issues tonight. Item number 6 is staff report. At the last meeting, we asked, it was asked by Mr. Dumas that the staff review potential zoning issues on Eads Road with an idea of trying to resolve that. And just to be clear for everybody here, there's no public hearing scheduled tonight. There was no notice given of a public hearing, even if we wanted to have one. So if there are any comments that are going to be made regarding this, whatever the staff comes up with, and I'll turn it over to Mr. Fournier in a second, we're either going to set it or not set it for a public hearing, at which time you'll have the opportunity to be heard. It will probably be noticed. So we're not having a public hearing tonight. That being said, Mr. Fournier, if you'd like to give us what you all have discussed. And
per the request of the commission at last meeting, we met with the developer, the owner of the property, and came up with what we thought were some solutions, possible solutions, with your concurrence on this. As you recall, the property was being asked to be rezoned as a mixed-use project. And what you see is you have a map in front of you, I think, that shows the items in red would be mixed use. What we came up with is a small 20-foot strip buffer that would be applied between the southernmost boundary of this property, which would be immediately west of the lake and east of the interstate highway and east of Aids Road. That 20-foot buffer, we hope, would provide an adequate buffer between the mixed-use development to the north and the residential use to the south. I think the owner of the property, Mr. Bill Wood, is here, and he can address that a little further and kind of make some comments about the meeting that we had and how he would operate with this. All right. As you said, Mr. Chairman, there's no action to be taken on this. We'll continue the discussion based on any comments that you have with the developer.
Right. I met with them as soon as I could, right after the meeting, and I think we agreed to agree that they would recommend to you guys to approve if I agreed to a 20-foot buffer. That was pretty cut and dry. It was all good with everybody. I have no other comments.
I would add that when staff met, we did make it very clear, though, that it will be going back to the board, and your decision on this will be the ultimate decision factor on this. All right.
And I would say it looks like you're rezoning all of or the proposal. There's no action to be taken. I just want to understand what's being put before us is the rezoning of all of Eads Road, and then going east and north to the Lakes of Ascension portion that's on that borders off of 621 is all. The proposal would be mixed use except for the 20-foot buffer to the south.
That's correct. And the reason we looked at it in that fashion was because when you look to the development to the east, the residential development, there's no access point to these areas that we're looking at as mixed use. The only access to those lots that you see designated on the map from B1, B2, all the way to B7, B8, B9 is through Express Street and the possibility of another street being constructed to the south of that, if in fact the subdivision design could accommodate that. So it basically boils down to how the access to these properties is going to occur when the property gets developed.
Well, and I guess my question is, if we look at Eads as, and I'm not saying I necessarily agree with this, but if we look at Eads as a frontage road for mixed-use development, but we want to preserve residential usage of the property as it goes east and north, can we create a further buffer? Can we actually create a mixed use that goes, I don't know how far that would be, but almost like to the western edge of the lake and just cut off the mixed use at that point? Or do you have to go by tract?
Oh, we could look at that as a possibility, yeah.
Anybody else have any questions or comments to this?
Mr. Fournier, lots B3 through B7, B8, B9, I mean, is there a dedicated right-of-way? Is Express got a dedicated right-of-way or something that, for those lots to have access? That's never been improved?
They do have, yes.
But it's never been improved?
No, it's not improved. It's only improved, as you can see on the aerial photograph, up to that building, to the edge of that building on Lot B2. That's the extent of the existing Express Drive.
What's the use on B7? It's just, in the aerial, there's something on B7. Do you know what that is?
I'm not sure what that is right now. You, Lance? Okay. We're not sure what that is.
I can tell you what it is. It was a radio tower they just took down.
All right, so I guess and Cody, correct me if I'm wrong on the procedural standpoint of this. If we're going to take any action to look at rezoning this, we need to have a public hearing on this, correct?
Correct.
So if it's the commission's desire to have if we have a public hearing on it, then we can vote on our recommendation up or down as to whether or not we want to recommend rezoning to the council. If we don't have a public hearing, then we can simply,
Well, no, I mean.
or if we don't want to move forward on it, we can simply not have a public hearing. Is that
No,
correct?
no, it lies with the applicant. I mean, he agreed to put it last time, so he has the right to request it and get in front of you guys. So I guess the question tonight is, does he want to set it for public hearing next month based on the comments that you make, or is this something that needs to be studied further? But the ultimate decision is his, and then we vote on the recommendation and it goes to council.
Well, and if the staff feels strongly that this whole thing needs to be identified and dealt with from a zoning perspective, should that all be folded into a staff-initiated application?
Yeah,
So that the notice is correct and the notices go from the right boundary and not from the boundary of the smaller parcel.
Because he doesn't own all of these parcels, right? So
No,
unless
he only
staff,
owns,
He only owns that one
right,
parcel.
so unless staff initiates it.
No, staff cannot initiate it. I
so
mean, we can
all-
start that part, but the actual petition for it can either come from the owner of the property, the planning commission, and the parish council. You're the only ones that can bring it forth to public hearing,
Well, other than an applicant.
other than the applicant and the parish council. So it would have to come from you to state to us to bring it over to tell us to bring it to public hearing, and we would present what you would request.
For the two existing non-conformings, though, as far as for what Mr.
Yes.
Billboard owns, his
And-
decision on what he wants to do.
Right.
And I guess the other, the B3 through, right,
it's
because he doesn't own
existing
all those.
non-conforming.
Well, the ones that don't have structures on them,
Right.
so it still would be part, not all.
I mean, I'll be honest with you, I'm not all that crazy about making this whole area mixed use. I think there's a lot of concerns that come in with this. I mean, ultimately, it's not our decision one way or the other. I mean, we can make our recommendations. The council's going to do what the council does. I think this might overreach a little bit as to what was being asked of us. With all due respect, and I appreciate the work that all the council, the staff does, this is not, I can see where a certain frontage of Eads Road, I think you can make an argument that could be rezoned as mixed use, but going back towards these subdivisions, they border residential right now. There's residential all around it. I just, I'm not that crazy about it, but I would be happy to listen to a public hearing again on this, or see a redrawing of this, making the mixed-use corridor very limited, almost, not going past what's currently mixed use in far as depth going eastward. That's my opinion on that, but,
Well, and let me say this, all of these uses that are there right now are all non-conforming.
no, I understand that.
So,
yeah.
so really, you know, my intent was to look at this and say, you know, not necessarily solve their nonconformity problem, but to look at it and say, you know, what is the appropriate zoning, you know, here? Is it better to approve it as a type of a PUD? Is it better to look at it? Or is it better to just simply leave it alone and continue to leave it as a nonconforming use with the zoning that it has? So I don't have the answers to that. I really, you know, I'm just saying that that's what I guess that was the intent of my question, is to look at it from the perspective of what is the best appropriate use for this property, given all of the circumstances.
Well, just for clarification, Mr. Chairman, the two properties that are owned by the gentleman, Mr. Bill Wood, are the two parcels that are right below the parcel labeled A, and the one below that, which would be subject to the 20-foot buffer strip, right?
Well, and that's what, I guess that would be my, if we look at this, and we discussed it last time, as, there's some that to rezone the lots that Mr. Billwood owns as mixed use, in my opinion, would be, spot zoning under the ordinance. Now, in practicality, because there's those non-conforming uses, it looks like that being residential is spot zoning, but I really don't think that's the case. So if we look at, say, well, you know, Eads Road is for all intents a frontage road, which I wouldn't characterize it as that, because there's some differences between what I think of as a frontage road. Is it possible to rezone, and I don't know what the depth is, but if we take the depth of Austin Fire, whatever, and I think it's Austin Fire, whatever that depth is going back from Eads Road, and we just draw a straight line south, can we rezone that frontage so that there could be mixed use there? I don't know if we can or not. And I think that there presents two problems with that. And my biggest concern is that everything that surrounds this is residential. So, you know, and it's always been residential. I mean, this isn't something new. So those are the concerns that I have. I think looking at these three tracks, A, B, and Mr. Billwood's track, whether there's 2, 3, or 4, and calling it all mixed use, backing up to Lakes of Ascension there, I just can't see that. I mean, I don't think I would be in favor of it, because I'm worried about these properties that surround it all. And I don't know what the answer to the question is. I really don't, other than, you know, I know we've discussed this on multiple occasions, not just this, but also A5, E and D. I think we discussed those lots 2 months ago, and really the issue is, how do we make sure that whatever goes there is conforming to something that's desirable for the neighboring landowners, and not something that would be undesirable, and we really lose control over that once it's rezoned. So that's where I mean, that's just my opinion. If the council wants to have a public hearing on this, Mr. Billwood wants to push it, we can certainly do that, but.
And what you want to do is you want to operate a ski facility there.
I'm currently, I would assume I'm grandfathered in on a skiing facility.
Right.
I
You have a
wanted,
non-conforming use there right now. Okay, so, but what
Correct.
is it that you plan on doing with that property?
I wanted to be consistent with the adjoining property owners. I just want to get it rezoned, because just like we talked about last month, it's not realistic, and you asked us to get together in order to clean this area up. It's not realistic for them to go down Express Lane and build a house on those vacant lots back there. I don't think, okay? So I got with staff, we talked about this area. I agreed. I have all the lots on the, I guess, the south side of the lake on Eads Road that go to the entrance, and between my lots that are currently zoned RM, I agreed to the buffer at, that's what staff said they could recommend. And I don't care what they do with the property to the north of me, but it doesn't really make sense if anyone on Express Lane is gonna come back there and build a home site. I just don't see that happening.
Well,
Like
but
I s-
it could have, if they decide.
I know it could happen,
Well, but
but
if Austin decides to cease operations, I mean, who knows? That could be a home site development right there. If PCE goes out of business, that could be a home site development going all the way back there. That's what it's zoned for right now. And what the problem that I've given a lot of thought about this, the problem that we have is these non-conforming uses aren't in perpetuity. They're only as good as long as these businesses are here, or something similar to that. Is that correct, staff? So any change to this is gonna revert it back all to residential lots there.
And their ability to expand is limited.
And their ability to expand, yeah, which directly affects everybody on Lakes at Ascension on the north side of it and on the east side. Granted, your property, you have a very slim property going down towards on the east side of on the north side of the lake, the pond there, but that's
my property only backs up to one lot. That's a residential
right. No,
lot.
yeah, no,
And it's just a very short distance. The lot that backs up to mine is much larger, backing up to the other two tracks that are already being used as commercial. Okay, and when you say it has a lot of effect, my property I'm asking to get rezoned has no effect on the subdivisions. Okay, if you come from Lakes of Ascension Crossing, I mean, you definitely can't see that property, period.
No,
It
but
has
I
no
don't-
effect, and it has a little bit of effect. I mean, when they drive by going 30, they can look over there and see whatever they have.
But I don't think, what I don't think we can do is I don't think we can make two of these parcels, whether they're yours or A and B, mixed use and leave the other one residential. I think what we're gonna have to do is, if we do one for, whatever it's gonna be, we have to be consistent with this. And the non-conforming use, the pre-existing non-conforming use makes it somewhat questionable because, as you pointed out, it's already there. There's already commerce here, but that's only, like I said, until those businesses are no longer here. So that's the problem, and that's the problem that I see, because if we rezone this entire area, then the subdivision is affected, I think, in my opinion. I see that being affected, but regardless, that's the discussion point on that.
But they're not on the,
Mr. Dudley, you have a point of order, please.
Yeah, just to refresh my memory, make sure I'm right. All this area that's in red on this map we got today is residential at this point.
Yes,
All right.
with two
With B1, B2, and part of A being non-conforming.
pre-existing non-conforming, exactly.
And B7 was a non-conforming use. There used to be a communication tower there.
Which is no longer there.
But it's no longer there. So really, it's B1,
All right,
B2.
well, what is, I guess I'll ask for a motion by the commission to, well, do I need a motion, Cody, to move on this?
If you guys want to set the entire thing, I think what Lance said is that they're gonna have to get direction from you to set it for public hearing. 'Cause we don't have the applicants here. Now, as far as Mr. Billwood, he lets us know whether he wants to set it for public hearing next month as to his tracks.
I can tell you what I would like. I'm gonna go based on staff recommendation to rezone mine as per y'all's request of me getting together with them, and I'll go with the buffer. And the only reason it's not set for public hearing is because we didn't have enough time to get the certified letters out.
Okay.
And
So if
Lance
we-
even brought that up at the last meeting. He couldn't guarantee it'd be in 30 days.
Okay, so, Mr. Billwood, you would like a public hearing for us to consider mixed use on your two, I guess it's two lots here, correct?
Yes, sir.
And then, Cody, we need to move to have that public hearing over the entirety of the area?
No, that's
Or
at his
or
control.
B and A? Or
That's at his control. He just has to, tell
No,
staff.
for his lots, I'm talking about the other
remaining
two
lots.
lots.
Oh, for their two lots, yeah.
Yeah, okay. So we don't have a choice on the public hearing on Mr. Billwood's lots?
No.
All right, so we'll set that for a public hearing next month. I asked the staff to duly notify that,
Yeah, I
make
mean,
sure.
assuming we can get the notice requirements out for next month, I just want to make sure I make that clear.
Yes, and I would direct staff, if we can do that, to have the public hearing either next month in February, or if we cannot notify it timely in March at the latest. And then I will ask the commission to make a motion one way or the other on including in that public hearing lots A, B1, and B1 through 9.
I'll make a motion not to include.
Not to include.
I'll
Not to
second that
include.
motion.
All right, so the motion is to consider at the public hearing only Mr. Billwood's lots. Is that correct, Mr. Dumas? And that's made by Mr. Dumas, second by Mr. Chasson. All in favor?
Aye.
Any in opposition? All right, so at the next, how soon will we know when the public hearing is set for? Ms. Patrice, the hot seat, the spotlight is on you. Okay. If not, then it'll be March, we could say March at the latest. All right. So the public hearing in either February or March, and it'll be properly notified so that all the surrounding landowners will consider Mr. Billwood's lots only. All right, do I have a motion to adjourn?
Move.
Moved by Mr. Dudley. We are adjourned. Thank you.